Hey everybody, welcome to Pelly Surfboards. I'm Bagel, and today we're going to do a little segment on FCS 2 fin installation. We're going to start off to, of course you got to get your fins marked, which you got going on here, and then here's your jig. This is important, and this is a tool that they give you to check your fin cants. It's a dummy fin, and basically this is a helpful tool to kind of gauge your degree of camber. And then finally we're going to chat about the actual fin boxes themselves. They offer a 0 degree, which is your trailer, which is standard, and then they also have 2 different degrees on your lead fins. These happen to be 9 degrees. They offer a 5 degree as well. So we'll go over that in the next segment when we get to the actual installation and dropping them into our routed area. Of course, they give you a bunch of these little stickers that are very convenient, and they go right over the top of your box during installation. So of course you don't get any resin down into the actual fin box itself. And we're going to go ahead and drift over to the router. Basically just a standard trim router. I've been through a bunch of them. I really like this Makita. They also give you a bit, and this is really important. The bit that you get from FCS, it works with the jig. The jig is lined with some metal, and there's a roller bearing on the actual router bit, which guides along your jig. Very, very easy to use. Awesome. And we're going to start the center box first. Basically what we're going to do is we're going to line up our jig on our marks. And one thing I recommend that you do is make sure, especially with EPS foam, it's a lot lighter. You want to make sure that your board sits a little forward on your racks, because as you start putting some pressure down, it could lift the front of the board up. So just kind of in advance, just make sure that your board is in a good position, you know, to when you start actually routing. So I'm going to shift this up just a touch, and that makes things a lot easier. So here we go. One thing that you can do, and I recommend, is just the you know, the router and the bit, so that you don't go too deep. You can kind of do it in really small increments. I like to start off just below where the guide bearing is. I basically start the router, the flat part of the router, I kind of line it up flush with the bottom of the bearing, because that won't let you get too far down into the box. So we'll do that, and then we'll test it as we go along, and we'll make slight adjustments. So here we go. And as you're getting ready to plunge into the stringer area, the trailer fin, I like to go off just to the side of the wood stringer first, so you don't go plunge right down into the wood stringer. I like to start off with, you know, getting the front part of the stringer, and then I work my way to the back. I knock out the back portion of the stringer, and then I gently graze the stringer back and forth until it's routed away. And I'm going to go ahead and blow out the dust, because we may have to make some more adjustments to our depth. Some boards have a little bit of V, so you do have to make adjustments as you go along, because sometimes the center area might be a little deeper. But we're going to use this tool. This is a cool little gauge. So basically what I like to see is, as you put your fin box in, you want the top of the box and the foam to be flush with one another. You don't want the box sticking up too high, and you certainly don't want the box sitting down too low into the foam. Okay, so we're going to talk about this jig just briefly before we start getting into our side lead fins. If you notice, there's 3 marks. And the center mark is for, you know, your stringer and your center fin boxes. As you get into these fins, you'll notice there's a right and there's a left on the jig. And so as you're doing the left rail, this would be considered the left rail, you're going to want to use the furthest mark to the right. And you'll see there's a nice little line, and it points right to the 3rd mark on the right side. So that's where you're going to line up your fin marks. And this way your fins will line up on your marks, because they're flat foil fins on one side and they're rounded on the outside. So you'll be in good shape. All right, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to start routing our side fins. And I'm double checking to make sure I'm on my marks. I'm going to be using the left rail side all the way to the right out of the 3, and that's important. All right, very good. Make sure we're on point. Make sure our box is flush with the top of the foam, and this one looks great. And we should be able to duplicate that on the right side here next. As we go to the right rail, of course, now we're going to switch over to the mark that's all the way on the left. Line up on my dots. Alright, we're going to double check our depth just to make sure that the shaper did a good job making the board even. Alright, looking good, nice and flush. Fantastic. Of course, this one is EPS foam, same on urethane foam, no real difference with changing the RPMs. I like to do it fairly high RPMs, and just make sure you take good even passes, and you know, everything works out great. It's a good system. Good luck out there.